today are usage, best practices, equipment, editing platforms, and then we'll do a couple more best practices and give you some content ideas if it's something that you want to be pushing out to, you want to start doing some video on a continual basis. So that's kind of our outline for what we're going to go over today. The first part of that is just usage. So there's so many different ways that we're using video right now, like what we're doing right now where we're on a Zoom and we're having a meeting. We could be using those for virtual listing presentations or buyers consultations. There's also just using it for content. So obviously we can push out things like what Carrie Schertzinger is currently doing, where she's putting out content and then it's on the platform like a YouTube platform, or she's sharing that through social media. We can also be using video to be doing virtual open houses or showing appointments virtually. And then there's video on just a general, whoops, sorry about that. My thing's very sensitive. A general, just having a conversation, so like a FaceTime. And the reason why it's important to have a conversation about all the usage is to know that, you know, there's the different ways that we use these video platforms really then changes the best practices for each one of those. So we're going to try to touch a little bit on all of those different types of platforms and some usage information for each of those. I really wish my clicker worked instead of having to use my mouse because it's really sensitive. So I'm going to try to change something out. Give me 1 second here. I hope this works for me because it's a lot easier. And it doesn't. Best laid plans, best laid plans. Thanks for being patient. Okay, so we're going to talk about some best practices first. The very first is that anytime you're doing video, if you're going live, if you're doing a virtual open house, if you're creating content to out there, there needs to be some planning behind that. So it's really important that you're mapping out your content and you're mapping out and creating the right space for what you're doing. So there's some specific things behind that. The first being lighting. This I thought was kind of the best image that I could find. There is, as far as lighting is concerned, really front direct sunlight, and not direct sunlight, I'm sorry, some filtered sunlight is the best thing that you could possibly do for yourself. When you have light going behind you or at an angle, it creates these shadows. And I'm going to actually give you a couple of ideas of what that looks like. So these are 3 images of people that have sunlight behind them. And either two things happen. You get super duper washed out or you completely get blacked out. This guy has no sunlight. He only has a light bulb, which is out of the picture. And I see a lot of this in Zoom calls right now where people are either washed out or I can't see them at all. So if you have a window in front of you, that's kind of the best thing that you could do. This is the same girl. So this girl right here on the far left-hand side, this is her in front of a window. So totally different feel altogether. So I have set myself up in a spot, and I'm going to show you what that looks like. This right here is to say that every single platform is going to have a different response to light. So the very best thing you can do for yourself is to practice. Everybody has the ability in their search bar to hit camera and have their camera for their device pull up, and then walk around. If you're in a laptop or a phone or you're using a mobile camera to video, walk around and find the best lighting that you possibly can. And when you're walking around, stop in a spot and give the camera a moment to adjust, because the reality is for example, my phone does a much better job of creating light and grabbing the light than my laptop does. And I have a pretty top end nice laptop, but the camera within it is not as powerful. So if you're going to start doing content videos and you're going to be using a desktop or a laptop, that camera quality may not be as good as what your cell phone provides. So keep that in mind. And we're going to talk about additional equipment, camera add-ons that you can bring into a laptop or a desktop PC. But when it comes to lighting, spend 5 minutes walking around your house and really seeing how that different lighting affects you. We're going to talk about angle as well. This is probably one of the largest areas that I see people kind of not do things correctly is the angle in which they keep their pictures. So I'm giving you some real shots. I would never share a picture of myself from underneath like this because it is not a flattering picture. This is going to show off how many chins I have. It's going to show my wrinkles. And then on the left-hand side, you'll see a shot from up above. In the middle is an eye level shot. So this is really what we're working for. The reality is you want your camera lens a little bit above eye level. Okay, so you want to be kind of looking up. It lifts your eyes up a little bit. And then the other angle that I often see is that people are far too close to their camera. So that's an up close, like I'm holding it just in my hand, like I'm showing you if you can see my video. If I'm holding the phone right here, that's what the up close is. So you really need to pull your arm away from you. It feels really unnatural, but it needs to come away from you. So center eye level photo, that's just me pulling my phone away from my face. And then the far away is me using some kind of a selfie stick device, which again, we'll get into that in a little bit. So we really want to do that center eye level view, okay? This is my setup at the office right now, not real fancy. I've got 3 reams of paper. That brings my laptop up so that it's just it's just slightly above eye level. And I am putting the chair on the opposite side of the bar so that I'm getting the light from the window over there. So this is the best location in this office. I have literally walked around multiple times, just like I advised you to, walk around and see what happens. But with my camera and my laptop, this is the best location. I do a lot of my footage that you guys see from my cell phone, and that actually has a better camera in it. So here is a great spot, but I can also utilize this in other spots in the office that my laptop doesn't really seem to enjoy. The other best practice thing I want to talk about is distractions. So this is a big deal. This is a great image. It's kind of talking about that backlighting. It's just way too bright when you're on camera. This says cute cat acceptable. That's kind of funny. The mess behind you, like what's going on the shelves, make sure that you have a really good backdrop for yourself. I know that right before we started recording, Bill has a picture of Crater Lake in a Zoom behind him, and Zoom's doing a really good job of allowing these backgrounds. What I do want to say about them though is they can be really distracting, and not all computers are created equally. So sometimes when you have a background like this, it ends up being super pixelated, or anytime you move your body, the background isn't actually going with you. So there's these large gaps that are happening. So if you're going to use a background like this, I highly recommend going into Zoom. You don't have to be on Zoom with somebody to test it out. Go onto Zoom and test it, and make sure that when you move around or raise an arm or reach for something, that it's not completely distorting your look, especially if you're trying to do a virtual listing presentation or a buyer's presentation and you're trying to be super professional. We want to avoid those type of distractions for the person on the other end. The way that you can, there's this one right here, Matea created for us. The C2 one is a little bit backwards, but that's because when the receiver gets that, it is correct. So if this is something that you would be interested in and want, we can get you a copy of this for sure. But keep in mind to test those. The other thing that you can do, and these actually turn out really, really nice on a Zoom because they're very subtle in the background and they're not distracting, is to just Google image Zoom background office and look for ones that are blurred. So it looks like you're in an office space, but it's a blurred image, so it's not so distracting. You can also do it with a home image. So I get the idea in front of this that I'm at home, even though it's not my home, but it's not distracting to me. The other part of distractions is emails, phones, anything that you have going on. So I tend, when I do my Zooms, to just shut down my email completely. I do not have my email on here because I don't want any notifications to pop up. I don't want any blinging to happen. I usually don't have my phone with me. I do it right now because I'm going to be utilizing this for this video tutorial, but it's on silent. So I don't want any buzzing or any vibration, anything to be happening that distracts you guys on the other side. So try to keep those things to a minimum. Obviously, if you're in an office environment and you've got animals or kids, the best you can do, the best you can do, right? There's also some truth and reality that we're all in this right now at the same way, so people understand some of those distractions, but especially if you're doing video content or professional listing presentation or something like that, you want to try to limit those type of interruptions as much as possible. The other best practice thing that I want to show you is probably the number 2 thing I see. Angle is number 1, and number 2 tends to be this one, which is where you look when you're videoing. So right now, me talking to you, I'm looking into the camera. So if you can see me on video, this is me looking at the camera. When I look down at the presentation that I've created, you can tell I'm not looking at you. So on the right-hand side, when I'm doing a video, that's me looking at myself. On the left-hand side, that's me looking directly into the lens. And my recommendation here is that you find one of those Post-it note flags and you put it right next to your camera to remind you where you should be looking. It is a difficult thing to do, especially if you realize you have some hair out of place or the wind is blowing, and you know it's a hard thing to do to train yourself to look at that camera. So put a sticker there to get yourself used to that. We'll talk about equipment really quick. Most cell phones are superior in camera to anything else. So the newest iPhones and the newest Androids tend to have something called live focus on them. So when you're doing video, if you go to live focus, what it does is creates you as the focal point and the things behind you are blurred just a little bit. So it's not as blurred as those backgrounds I showed you from Zoom, but it does put you in the focal point. You need to test out your camera. I don't know how old everybody's cameras are on their phones, but typically the newer the phone, the better the camera, and likely superior to any laptop, any desktop. And the only thing that beats that is cameras that are designed just for video. So your laptop camera is what I was kind of talking about. They're not really that strong of cameras, even in the best laptops. They're not designed for this. So there's some equipment that we can buy that will make that better. This is one of the best sellers on Amazon. We have 2 here in office. They're a Logitech HD webcam. Logitech makes one more step up from this one. They are completely sold out. You cannot find them. Actually, all home equipment is hard to get right now, especially from places like Amazon. I would highly recommend that you contact Best Buy. They will do curbside pickup right now, and they can get these items right to you. This runs about $70 depending on where you get it. The other piece is your speaker. So my speaker in my laptop and my cell phone are stellar. I don't need any additional speaker to what I'm using, but older desktops and older laptops may not have a really good speaker. So this would be what you would want to have, and I would suggest that you keep it out of sight. So you would have it next to your laptop. You would not have it right in front of you unless you're going to be doing a podcast, which is a whole nother kind of thing that we can talk about. This is one of the #1 rated microphones out there. It's called a Blue Yeti. It's about $160, so it's a pretty pricey piece of equipment. The other thing that's really good is these light rings. So if you are in an office space or your house doesn't get a lot of natural light, or you don't have any natural light coming in, a window that you can utilize, the one on the left here is a large ring that has a tripod that creates that light, and it has some options. They run between $100 and $200 depending on the accessories that they come with. These are great options though to help lighten up the space. I actually just ordered one because there are times where I'm doing video that there isn't enough natural light. And when life goes back to normal and everybody's back in the office, this will not be an ideal place for me to be doing video. So I just ordered one for myself. On the right-hand side, that is a little clip that goes right onto your phone or right on your laptop. And that light is actually very, very strong. It's $27 on Amazon today, and you actually can get that. It's portable, it's easy, and it's charged with a Android charger. So very easy to use. This is another thing that is sold out everywhere, but is also an option. If for some reason Zoom isn't allowing you to do the background like Bill had on his Crater Lake background there, sometimes it just is dependent on the age of the computer that you have and the software that it has. You can buy something like this. It's just a inexpensive green screen that then Zoom will allow you to say you have a green screen and it will pick it up better. But this is a great option if you just don't have a place where you can keep it clean and tidy all the time, or you don't want any of the distraction behind you. The other equipment that I think is really, really important. So this I own. I have this selfie stick right here. Selfie sticks have two purposes. One, you can have a tripod to put your phone on so that you can stand further back and do videos. The other thing is it helps stabilize you. So when we are walking through and doing tours of properties, we tend to not have the steadiest hand. So this will help you. There are specific ones that are called stabilizers that are even better than this, which will take any kind of movement and smooth that out. So I bought this one several years ago. It's really inexpensive, 25 bucks. It's on a remote, so I can have the remote in my hand and start recording. I tend to not use that very often because I'm pretty quick at doing video editing, which we'll talk about in a minute. But this is a really compact, it compacts really small. I could take it anywhere with me, and it's really inexpensive. Some of the stabilizers we'll get to in just a minute. This is another tripod idea, just so that you have the ability to put it on something. A lot of people like these tripods that have the ability to bend and angle so that you can attach it to, if you're outside, a tree limb or something of that nature. This is a stabilizer, so this one's about $89. You can see that this is really intended to hold in your hand and walk around with. This is really good for video tours of properties. Really, really great stabilizer. So this one's kind of showing you facing people, but a stabilizer is best used for facing outwards. This is another stabilizer, a little bit more expensive, but also really high quality. And I can send any of these slides to you. I want to talk about editing platforms quickly as well. So Microsoft, if you have a Microsoft PC, not an Apple, has a free photo editing software right embedded into your computer. If you just type in photos, it will pull this up. If you open your photo using Microsoft Photo, it will pull this up. It is really easy to use, and I'm linking down here a YouTube video that's less than 10 minutes. Actually, for this one, it's a whole list of YouTube videos. They're like 2-3 minutes long. For you to learn how to utilize this. It is pretty minimalistic. And what I mean by that is I could add 50 photos in here, a video in the middle of it, and merge it all together, but I can't do a lot of sound overlay and I can't do a lot of text overlay. I can text overlay one time. So it's not the most robust, but for a beginner, this is really, really good. And I used it for a really long time as the only thing that I was using. Apple has a free version of a editor as well. It's called Movie Maker. So if you're using an Apple, there's a YouTube video link here. I believe this one's about 15 minutes. It looks to me to be a little bit more complex, but I have read from multiple people, I'm not an Apple user, that it's really, really user friendly. The other one that I want to tell you about is a free download. So there's no cost to this. And this one is really, really nice. You can overlay sound, you can put multiple images together, you can add text on top. And this is what I'm currently using on my more lengthy videos. If it's a really quick and easy video, I will use the Microsoft free version. But if I need to do more text overlay or anything, this is the product that I'm using and it's free. So there's a quick YouTube tutorial there as well. As far as cover photos or adding text to anything, there are two things that I prefer PowerPoint. I think it's quick and easy and it's on my computer and it's just use it and it's done. So I use PowerPoint for almost everything, but if you do want to have an intro and you want some text around it, this is a great place. Canva is also a really great location for free, and they also have some upgraded versions as well. There's some tutorials from YouTube for both of these as well. Couple more best practices. and I want to make sure I hit all of them, is that it does require some practice on your part to do video and have it look good. But don't let don't have gosh, I got to spit out my words. I'm talking too fast. Sorry. Don't have paralysis by analysis and go too far into this. At some point, you just have to jump off the cliff and get it done. But the reality is that it's a good idea for you to practice a couple of times, get used to talking on camera, get used to talking to the camera, figure out your lighting, figure out your location, all of those good things. This is a tip that I wanted to put on. iPhone and Android does not allow you to have your video on and then for you to turn the camera around. Neither product has that built in. It's absolutely astonishing to me that that is not a thing. There is a way to trick the system when you're in Instagram or Snapchat, but it is not something you can do just by using your installed camera. So if you're out and about and you think that you're going to do a video tour of a house and you want to talk like this on a live camera, and then you want to flip it around to show the house, you have to flip your phone. And the problem with doing that, flipping the phone, is that now I can't see what I'm showing. The other thing that I want to say is when you're doing a video tour of a property, it is much better to go this way than it is to go this way unless you're live on Facebook. So if you're able to do this as your video tour instead of this, unless you're live, okay? The other really big suggestion I have when you're going to do any kind of video, I don't care if it's going live or doing video content, or you don't have to do this for when you're on a Zoom meeting, but is to have a checklist and not, or script, and not have it all written out like in paragraph format so that you have to feel like you have to recite something like that, but to have bullet points so that you make sure that you touch on all the items that you wanted to touch on, but that you also naturally flow with what you're going to say. So if I wrote the whole thing out, I'm going to sound very scripted. But if I'm going to say, I need to make sure I touch on this, this, and this, even for this, I have bullet points. So it's a good idea. It makes it feel more natural and that you're coming across it, covering all your points. This slow down is really referring to when you're doing a video walkthrough. So when you're doing a walkthrough tour, either by doing a showing or a virtual open house, which I will be doing a video on, slow down when you're walking through the property. There are a couple things that people tend to do. They tend to really turn quickly, and it's hard for us on the other end to follow along with that. It's the tracking mechanism is really off, or you tend to walk through the property really quickly. If you're married and you remember walking down the aisle, they say relish the moment, slow down. That's really what we're trying to do. Walk slowly through that property and make sure you have a stabilizer, because it's really uncomfortable to watch a video where there's a lot of bobbling going around. Facebook Live is by far one of the hardest things that you can do when you're starting out. And the reason why is that there's a little bit of lag with Facebook Live. It takes it a minute before people know you're live, and there's not a lot of room for error. So if I'm doing content videos and I screw up, I can go ahead and just pause myself, which I do all the time when I'm doing videos. I'll mess something up and then I'll say in the camera, start over, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then I'll start over and I'll edit that piece out. On live, you don't have that ability to do it, but live is really awesome. Facebook loves it. They'll push you to the top of somebody's feed. So if you're gonna go live, I would highly recommend you have your bullet points ready and that you wait a moment once you go live. So have something to talk about, an intro to, hey, I'm coming to you live today and my plan is to talk to you about XYZ. But first, I just wanted to say it's a beautiful day outside. We've got 80-degree weather. And what I'm doing is kind of killing time right now. I'm trying to let people get that notification that I'm live. And as they come on, I'm going to be like, hey, Kelly, good to see you. So I hope you and your family are doing well. Angelica, I hope that the puppy's not driving you crazy and that you're having a good time. You know, I'm going to talk to people and let them know I see you. I know you're here, right? And then I'll go into what I'm going to be talking about for live. The other thing is to slow down. Don't get so nervous that you go so fast that people are like, what in the world is she talking about? Slow down. take a breath in between. Maureen Cook, one of our brokers here, just went live yesterday or the day before, and she did a phenomenal job. So she's not done video before, and she went straight into live. So kudos to Maureen for that, because it is very, very hard to do. The other thing that you can do if you're going to go live is let people know that you're going live. So if this is something where you're going to start doing this on a consistent basis, and you know that Wednesdays at 7 p.m. you're going to go live, maybe on Monday and Tuesday leading up to, you remind people, hey, 7 p.m. on Wednesday, I'm going to go live. You know, let people know so that they're looking for that content, okay? And then I wanted to give you some content ideas. So if you want to start doing videos, here's a whole bunch that I literally just came up with this morning while I was thinking about it. And I'm just going to run through a couple of them. So 2, 3, 4-minute videos is really, really all you need to do. You don't need to do a lot more. And another best practice or tip I would say is film multiple videos in the same day. It will take you in the beginning, one video might take you 3 hours. One 4 or 5-minute video could take you 3 hours to just get it filmed and then edited to the way that you want to publish it. But eventually what will happen is you can do multiple videos in one day, edit them all, and now you spent 3 hours and you have 3 weeks worth of content. So I would create a calendar of what I want to do over a month. I'm going to say Wednesdays at 7 o'clock, I'm going to go live. Here's the content I'm going to do. And then with going live, you can't actually film it all on the same day. But if I was going to put it on YouTube, I could film those 3 right away. And then I have that whole content done. So some of the content ideas that I had is how does your credit score impact your buying power? How much are my upgrades worth? Do I seriously have to have 20% down payment? What are some mistakes that sellers make or buyers make? Or do some about the local area that you're in, top 5 restaurants of a specific area. Pitfalls to pricing your house too high, those kind of things. So that's really what I have for you today. I am totally willing to do a video on video editing if that's something that people are interested in, but I want to make sure that I'm bringing things of value to you. So I'm going to stop sharing and unmute you all. And if you guys want to have any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Good job.
It's a lot of information in 30 minutes.
It is a lot of information.
I am shocked that on the video you can't reverse the looking at yourself, and then so how would you do it? You had showing it a selfie and then turning.
Yeah, it's really challenging. It's super challenging. So if you're going live and doing it, then instead of starting your camera, your phone camera towards you, have your phone camera here and you're right there, okay? And then turn your phone around this way so that you can follow what you're doing in the house.
Okay.
Does that make sense? So instead of having it towards you to start, have it away from you to start. And the reason why that technology is not there is there's a camera on the front and there's a camera on the back, and neither iPhone or Android has figured out how to reverse those cameras. They're 2 separate functions in the phone.
You know what's really strange is our previous phone, Note, what was it, Kelly, 7?
Yeah.
A long time ago. They had a really cool feature that they dropped. And,
Yeah.
And you could do a picture-in-picture. So you could record your voice looking in, but then the back camera's looking at the scenery and stuff. I posted some of that on vacation, and I've looked high and low for some software download that can do that, and nothing that I found.
And I think the software download isn't there because now these cameras don't function as one camera any longer. So as we've gotten more camera lenses in these phones, they've gotten more complicated and taken away some really basic features like that.
Right. And I traded that phone in, which I shouldn't have. It was a decent camera.
Yeah. Well, the other thing is on these newer phones, they do have that live focus, which is really nice. And then they have a larger panoramic ability. So when you're videoing, you can go from here with one click of a button to here with one click of a button to here in a smooth transition. And that is really, really nice.
Yeah.
Any other questions or comments or